here are your hosts, Bo Bishop and Nathan Zagura.
You guys are up. Bo and Nathan CBD on a First Friday Halloween edition of the program. Lots to get into. Six was at the mic today.
He was.
He was at the mic today.
Some interesting sound coming out of that we need to hear for ourselves before we
will
figure out what's going on there with
things
Six,
are being interpreted
confident.
Wildly. And so we'll have some fun with
We'll
that.
bring you the truth.
We will bring you an unedited truth.
Unedited.
That's how we roll here on the program. It is Halloween. What was your go-to as a child?
For a while, I had my Top Gun phase.
That's right.
Which was I was a naval aviator.
A naval aviator.
Yes. I
no
had a great nerd costume that I did one time.
Is naval aviator for you Costanza architect? Is that in the same?
I think so. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
That was it.
I think that's fair
that was
say.
like.
Yeah, that was a big go-to. I had a good nerd costume I did for a while. One year in college, I went as Robin Hood. You
love Robin Hood.
It was,
but you probably it was college. So you had a twist to it, I'm sure.
It was a costume that revealed the carefree nature of my youth in college. The men in tights. Jeez. It was outrageous. It was good.
That is outrageous. Yeah, that's quite outrageous at this point.
I think Mr. Winters would have been proud.
He would have, yeah.
Mr.
Winters.
Ters.
The T is critical to that. It's a fun one. I'm pretty depressed because I feel like we're just going to get rained on all day here.
Hold on, what's your Halloween? You didn't give me anything back.
Oh, as a kid, it was the go-to was Zorro. It was always Zorro. If I had a choice, it was always Zorro. And by the way, all of those you mentioned, Robin Hood, Zorro. My boys don't have any of those things anymore. No. None of that exists anymore, which is a shame because they're both worthy heroes. And so it was Zorro as a kid was always the go-to. If I could be anybody, it would be Zorro. I was fortunate enough to grow up around horses, so sometimes a horse could be involved in the Zorro. And then that's
a real
full
that's
Zorro.
Really taking it to that's taking it to an unbelievable level.
It was. Yeah, it was. So my oldest tonight is going as 6. My middle is Superman, and my youngest is all dudes, I think, is a transformer of some sort.
Okay. My daughter is the Mad Hatter, but a feminine version of the Mad Hatter.
Wonderful.
And my son is a cop.
Okay.
And I go to watch they do the Halloween parade.
Yeah.
And he's so much bigger than the other kids. He's a tall kid. And he's wearing this cop outfit that has kind of it's got a deep V-neck on the top. And he's wearing white Adidas, like Run DMC, sweet white Adidas. And it just looked like he was channeling Channing Tatum in a pre-routine outfit. And I was sitting up in the stage.
Magic Mike cop.
So proud and also just laughing hysterically. You almost thought that one day he was just going to go and just all of a sudden tear away and just start getting after it. And I was crying up there. And I was sitting with my buddy Russ. And I go, Russ, I had to share my observation with him. And he was like, he couldn't stop laughing. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it.
The deep V-neck makes that.
It was unreal. And the white Adidas. I mean, it was the whole thing. The hat, the cuffs, the whole thing.
Most valuable candy bar or candy on Halloween? What if you see it in the kids what's the one you got to
I have a triumvirate that popped into my head of that I was psyched no matter what. Butterfinger.
Yeah. Because you never see those, but if they pop in.
They should. I mean, Bart Simpson was a massive purveyor of the Butterfinger.
He was. Yeah.
Snickers.
Yep.
I mean, can't go wrong. Snickers. And then don't give me this garbage in the gold foil. Give me the full orange, the real deal, a Reese's peanut butter cup. Full cup.
I think you've got the right draft order there. I'm fine with all of those. I would add a Twix and a Kit Kat are both there too, but I think on the
Kit Kat, not for me.
Not
a wafer man.
Not a wafer man. I think the Snickers and the Reese's cups in the freezer. Wow.
Snickers goes right to the freezer for me.
Right in.
What I appreciate,
my
though.
My 2.5-year-old last night, I gave him one of the frozen little ones. He couldn't bite it.
Yeah, no.
All over his face.
What I find amazing
give him a chance to succeed
is that the Snickers candy bar goes in the freezer, and it is delightful. You do have to work hard to get through it. I mean, it requires a jaw that has been well exercised and ready to go.
Agreed, yeah.
Because everything freezes. The nougat, frozen. Caramel, or caramel, as I like to say, frozen. What I find fascinating about the Snickers ice cream bar, which I think is the most underrated ice cream treat in the history of ice cream treats.
Can't disagree.
How do they keep that caramel unfrozen? You bite into it.
Oh, boy,
and
that's interesting. I
pull
never thought of it
right
that
out
way.
Of the
It
freezer,
really does.
You pull, and that caramel, it goes with you.
That's private school, that type of observation.
I mean,
that's you're not getting that at state
something.
school.
I'm
not getting that.
What I hated more than anything getting, Whoppers.
Whoppers are a total waste.
Now, it's
I
interesting.
think candy corn are a total waste, too.
I can have one and enjoy it. Beyond that, terrible. And don't give me any other shape. The candy corn pumpkin.
Oh, no,
awful,
no. That's
dreadful.
That's
an
a
abomination.
disgrace. Yeah, you can't.
It's an abomination.
No. Yeah, that's nothing. There's nothing even to that.
So the Whopper, which in my understanding is chocolate around malt, right?
Jeez.
But I enjoyed a chocolate malt as a kid when I went to the A's game, and you got the wooden spoon.
But it's all mixed.
Yeah,
what you have here is a layer with some sort of
malt.
Dry malt.
It's like it's basically as if they put sand,
cover it in chocolate,
and covered in chocolate. And like, eat this, child.
I co-sign that.
Out.
Definitely
and don't give
out.
me raisins. Not funny.
Nothing healthy. I don't want any of that nonsense.
New people, there are people, and maybe they're giving toothbrushes along
No,
with their candy.
no.
Outrageous.
That's ridiculous. You can't
Stop
have that.
it.
You can't have that.
Stop it.
Time for the OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine preferred copier provider, the Cleveland Browns, of all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. It is Chiefs week. Yesterday was the trade deadline. As we were doing the show, we were trying to make sense of what could happen, what may happen. We had Ben Albright on, and he basically pointed to that what would happen with Dante Fowler, and it did happen.
This is almost as big as an Ian Rappaport tweet.
That is almost
right here, folks.
an Ian Rappaport tweet.
The Z.
So let's give the backdrop on this before we get into the more substantial issues of who they're playing. Yeah, show the
That's
people on
Brown's
the stream.
Therapy. Look at it.
Brown's
If you're on YouTube
Therapy,
right
I
now.
asked because I call you the Z that stands for Zagura in homage to Zorro. I said Brown's Therapy could do something. You thought Brown's Therapy would be able to get this done. This is a big, tall task for them, but they've done it.
They've done it.
They've done it. It's beautiful. That should be the thing. That's got to be like your profile pic and stuff.
It said my like.
Oh, now it says unavailable.
It's deleted. Bring it back. He must be maybe has another twist that he thinks is even better.
Maybe that was just we maybe jumped the gun.
Dante
Fowler to the Rams.
Great trade
ends
for the Rams.
up being the one. You and I said yesterday, this is simple stuff. Like, I'm for any time you can get a high-end talent that somebody else is ready to push the chips on but was identified as a high-end talent in the draft. I'm for you getting those guys on a bargain basement and seeing what you can do with it. You have to have the right culture in your organization. The Rams very clearly do. Think about this, my friend. This is important for Browns fans. Think how quickly culture can change. The Rams were one of the most, like when my buddy James Laurinaitis played for them, disaster franchises. And then it changes with winning, and all of a sudden now you can take on all of these personalities, and they have a lot of personality on that football team, and it's all fine because the guy at the top is excellent at what he does, has an incredible energy, and it pushes throughout the organization. And now you can take on, and you win, and it's that simple. I love the Rams. I love that move from the Rams side.
I agree. I think that it's another good move for them. More talent. They're going for it. Teams, I think, are smart. If you can turn mid-round picks into guys that help you win now, you never know. Next year you can't take next year for granted that the guys are going to come back. Everybody's going to be healthy. You know what this year is. I love the Redskins, who are 5-2 right now.
Yeah,
and they go and they make a move to bring in Clinton Dix. Great move for them. Help out solidify the back end of that defense. Golden Tate to the Eagles was a smart move right out of the Patriots playbook, bringing in a savvy wide receiver for them. Demaryius Thomas to Texas. I think everybody made good moves yesterday. Everybody made good moves, and I think ultimately for the Browns, while I think everybody wanted to see something happen, the Browns were not in the business of a one-year rental, and I think it was smart that they didn't do so. I think if you could have gotten somebody young who could have helped you down the line, like a Garyon Conley you talked about, or Devontae Parker, a first-round pedigree who could be here for multiple years, sure. But those things didn't come up, and obviously if they did, the cost was prohibitive. Otherwise, they'd be here. So I applaud John Dorsey for what he did, but I thought everybody who made a move yesterday made a smart move in the sense that they were acquiring somebody they felt could help them for a playoff run. And I think that's really, it's fun to see people.
This is a big win. The trade deadline in the NFL used to be a total dud.
It used to be garbage.
And this has been great. And by the way, the trade deadline isn't just the day of the trade deadline. It's the 2 weeks before. We've had a bunch of big deals over the last couple of weeks, and we were involved in one with Carlos. So these are big things that can change the shapes of franchises in the immediate. And they're happening, and I think it's really fun for the league and makes for a lot of fun. I echo your statement on John Dorsey. I think the one thing that we've learned from John Dorsey in his short time here is that this is not a man who feels pressure to make any move, that he stays above the fray. He plays it cool the whole time. He is John Wayne. He just steady as we go, and that's just who he is. And so would I've liked to have seen. We had talked about this on the show. Would we have liked to have seen a little bit of receiver help for 6? Yeah, sure. But that might come internally over the course of the next couple of weeks as well, as you start to get a little healthy.
And you certainly hope so. And, maybe you get Rashard Higgins back. That's going to feel like acquiring somebody. John Dorsey has his plan. He's sticking to it, and I love that. And I think this is a team that knows it's all about the big picture. I wanted weapons for Baker. I said it before. I'll still say it. I want him to be in the best environment possible. And perhaps Freddie Kitchens is going to bring a new look to the way that this offense runs to maximize what he does have to work with, because we know now it ain't changing. Ain't changing. You're dancing with what brung you, and so that's what the Browns have to do over these final 8 games. And I'm real curious to hear from Greg Williams later today. I'm excited. Next, we're going to hear from Baker Mayfield as well. Just kind of the attitude that is permeating this building, because must go on. It's like they must go. Can't go on.
Yeah, and there's 8 games left that a lot has to be gotten out of. There's a half a season left. And so I think when you hear what you're about to hear from Baker Mayfield as we play you his press conference, this is a guy that I know and the organization certainly fully believes in. And I think he's everything that you thought he was going to be at the beginning. And I think some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Did you see Brian Baldinger's breakdown of some of the stuff? Some of the stuff that Baker was asked to do in the game on Sunday. I think everything that has happened this week kind of makes sense when you think about some of the things that we're being asked to do. I mean, how many times, no back, 5, and the Steelers are bringing 6.
And you're not helping your offensive line.
TJ and Bud Dupree were running
free,
unchecked. There's 5 or 6 of them that happened in the game last week. That can't happen. He is the franchise. He has to be protected and taken care of. You'll hear from him coming up next. CareSource, individual and family health insurance with health insurance from CareSource. You're not just covered. You are covered with kindness. Baker Mayfield at the podium for the first time since the changes were made to the coaching staff. You will hear that next. Off and running on a First Friday, CBD 850 WKNR.
Good stuff.
Very good stuff.
That
I haven't read it. I dare.
Are you reading it right now?
No. I'll do it.
Marcus Davenport's banged up.
The funny thing about that.
See, we hired Ryan Lindley to be the running back coach.
What?
Ryan Lindley.
Here?
Yeah.
To be the running? What?
Yeah.
Today?
Supposedly. It was in our script for Browns All Access. Have we reported that?
I don't even know what that means.
He was a quarterback in Arizona for Freddie Kitchens, when Freddie Kitchens was a quarterback coach.
Oh, so you needed.
It's interesting that he's a quarterback, but so was Freddie, I guess.
Who the hell's this Doug story? I don't see it. Oh.
Second 30, guys. Baker's ready to go.
All right, buddy.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850 WKNR.
You're up.
Hurry into Value City Furniture, your new reclining destination with the best and largest selection of power reclining furniture. We have just the spot for you to kick back on game days or any day. So shop Value City Furniture today and online at vcf.com. The two big factors, I think, in what happened here this week were, number one, the public discord, which was something that the organization wanted no part in, between Hugh and Todd, was something that was untenable. And then just as equal to that was Baker Mayfield and putting him in the best position to succeed. And it was figured out that this wasn't the best position for him to succeed. He is the most important. Yep. I said this earlier. He's the most important Cleveland Brown player since Tim Couch.
Yep.
It is critical that he is put in the best possible position to succeed. And I think this move will help in that regard. Baker Mayfield was at the podium today, Mr. Zagura, and was asked a litany of questions about the change and where the organization goes from here. We will listen to that, and then we'll react to it. Have a listen.
Hey, Baker, what was your reaction to the coaching?
13 minutes.
I think for me it's definitely something new. Caught me off guard, but got to roll with the punches. Whatever happens. We got to stick together as a team, and we got to use this as something to make us come together. Obviously it could be a huge distraction, or it could be something that brings this locker room even closer.
Is that like when you've seen all the changes before you got here, was that a welcome to Cleveland kind of moment, your coaching change in mid-season, your rookie year?
I haven't been in Cleveland long enough to say that's my moment. I think later on in my career I'll be able to give you a better answer on that.
Were you shocked that either of them were let go or that both of them were fired?
Like I said, I think for me, it being the first time I've experienced something like that mid-season, it was surprising on all fronts. Specifically, it doesn't really matter if it was one or both. It just surprising to me. Never gone through it like that, and that's my welcome to the business moment, I think.
What was Greg Williams' message to you guys?
See
to
Russ
stick together.
yesterday.
We
come
we have this.
keep Russ and
it is
Patrick
what it
Beverly
is.
away
But,
from each other.
we
Then
got to
Russ
push
went
forward.
crazy
We have
and
a
just
game this week,
killed him.
and that's the important part. We can either use this as an excuse to throw in the towel, or we can rise up and come together as a team.
Baker, Jimmy Haslam said the reason for the changes was because of internal discord between the coordinator and the coach. Did you see evidence of that? How did that impact you?
Tried not to, see anything else besides doing my job. Like I said, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm learning as we go throughout these things. So whether there was or not, I don't stick my head in that stuff. I stick doing my job and being around these guys and trying to improve every day.
How could this turn into a positive situation for you and the team moving forward now?
It's one of those things that you can handle it as a distraction, like I said, or you can use it to come together as a team. This locker room can become a lot tighter. I haven't been through a mid-season change, but when Bob Stoops stepped down and Lincoln Riley was the head coach, that was kind of the same situation. It was different. It was new to us, and so we used that to come together. And I expect the guys in here to be grown men, to be experienced football players, and handle it the way and keep that same mindset of we have the same goal. We need to reach that and work with each other.
What changes for you?
Good to see you. I want you back in here.
For you now
We don't see him
Todd
anymore.
and Hugh gone?
We don't even see him.
He doesn't even care.
Obviously, I won't be calling the plays. Freddie will be. Still have Kenny Van Peasy
Are you
being the
seeing this
quarterback
stuff
coach.
from,
So
you seen this stuff
within
from
the
Andy
routines
Reid
of day-to-day stuff,
on Dorsey?
it's very similar. And as I continue to learn from Freddie and how
John
he likes
picked
to
him.
call
That's why I'm
plays,
telling
and,
you guys are in good
just
hands.
be comfortable to voice my opinion on certain things, and so we're all learning as we go here, but it's not an excuse.
This organization still needs somebody to pull it up by the coat straps, and as the number one overall pick, a lot of people will be looking at you as the person to do that. How do you roll that kind of thought through your mind?
Bring it on.
Baker, the coaching changes aside, what do you guys have to do to get better offensively?
You know, we're going to stay with the same system. We're not going to mid-season throw in a new playbook. That's not what we're doing. So it's the same things over and over. We have to be detailed. We have to do our job the best we can. And so this is a good week to do that. You know, with all distractions, we'll see what kind of men we have in this room. Not what kind of team we have, but what kind of men can handle a distraction the right way, can come together and focus on doing their job and doing it at a high level against a great team on Sunday.
Baker, you played against Patrick Mahomes before a couple years ago. You guys were almost teammates, in fact. But what stands out most to you about that 2016 game where you threw for 7 touchdowns?
That it was a basketball score. I know, looking back on it, he had, I think, 800 plus total yards, and they were 20 of 25 on third down. So I think if we can keep him from completing 20 of 25 third downs, then we'll have a better chance of winning.
When you went into that game, did you have any inkling it would be that way?
Absolutely. That was my welcome back to Lubbock moment, and weird things happen in Lubbock, Texas on Saturday nights, and so it's pretty funny. Oklahoma goes back to Lubbock this weekend, and then I'm playing Pat on Sunday.
What do you think they could stop? I mean, do you feel like you could score every time you have the ball?
That's the kind of belief and confidence I've had in the offenses I've played in. That's the kind of thing that I want to install here. It's something that goes a long way, that it doesn't matter what they're doing. They were completing every pass and scoring a lot of points, but we have to do our job. It doesn't matter.
Are you going to be thinking about that game when you're on the field?
No, I'll be thinking about Sunday and playing the Chiefs.
Any one play stand out from that game? Any flat pass, anything?
There was a bunch, so no, not really.
You had some welcome to Pittsburgh moments on Sunday. How are you doing physically?
Good, ready to go.
Do you notice, and you're saying keeping the same system, but do you notice Freddie having a different style or different approach than Tom?
No, considering we haven't even had our first day of practice, I won't be able to answer that one.
Baker, would you try to lure Lincoln Riley here? Do you think he would want to come here? Would you love to see him and be reunited with him as your coach again?
I love Link, but we have what we have. He's doing his thing and I'm doing mine. Not worried about that. Coach Williams is our head guy now. Freddie's our offensive coordinator, and we need to roll with that. We need to believe in that. We have the team that's capable of winning in this locker room, so you gotta trust that.
How do you think his style, both schematically and leadership,
they're so much better without Carmelo?
All coaches are different. You know, you have your guys like Greg Williams, the fiery leaders. Then you have your guys that don't talk as much, and Lincoln's one of those guys. But what it comes down to is, the players trusting the coach, who's in charge, and they have to believe in that, and without question, they have to follow him. So I think his style will work, but that's just because of who he is. He's smart. He gets his guys to believe in him, and that's what it is. So does Greg.
You said when you got drafted that Kansas City runs similar things to what Oklahoma does.
I think fair to say. Obviously I'm not studying their offense, but from what I've seen, they do a lot of mismatch stuff. They play action, and they're allowing Pat to do a lot of things and make plays. And he's obviously playing at a very high level.
So that goes back to Sunday, playing quicker. Could that be a change we could see where you might?
We'll see. We'll see as we get through the game plan.
Baker, have you ever lost 3 in a row?
No.
So how are you dealing with it? And is NFL Browns tougher than you thought it would be?
NFL is a tight game because of how talented everybody is, but it comes down to the details. You have to do your job the very best, and that's why, we're looking to improve week by week, and so this will be a good test for us to see how we handle it. But yeah, it's a tough game, but it's because it's about the little things.
John Dorsey said you're not the kind of guy that's confident he's going to get beat down at all. Are you still as confident as ever?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm ready to roll.
Hey Baker, with the losing streak, with the firings of Hugh and Todd, you told yourself your leadership is more important than ever?
I don't think I had to tell myself that. I think that's been something I try and realize every day. But now more than ever, we talked about it. It's kind of a fresh start for everybody. Even though it's midway through the season, I think my leadership and my presence and making sure guys stay focused is more important now than ever.
Do you think that discord got in the way of winning?
Like I said, I wasn't looking at that, so if it was there, I wasn't paying attention to it. What it comes down to is the fact that we weren't making the plays and doing our job well enough to win. If you look at the tape, it was always a mistake here or there, a bad read, stuff like that, missed assignments. So it doesn't come down to the stuff off the field. It comes down to the play.
Do you feel like you would benefit even right now, in these last 8 games, from incorporating some more of the air raid or sort of the college elements that you had, things that made you feel comfortable and confident?
No, I mean, when it comes down to schemes and stuff like that, you can't come up with something brand new that you've never seen. I've seen a lot of these things. It's just the way it's coached. I just have to do my job and do it at a high level. I don't think we need to bring anything new. We just need to keep doing it.
Baker, with the way that your lives,
Hey, Brooke.
that you and Patrick have kind of crossed paths all across the line, you guys are now playing in the NFL. Does it feel like it could be the start of a quarterback rivalry like Brady Manning or something of that level?
Well, I would absolutely not say that it's going to be Brady Manning right now, but that's humbling to be in that conversation. You know, but we'll see. You know, if he keeps playing that way, there's no reason why it wouldn't be on his side of things, and now I just got to pick up my side and play better.
Part of the reason that you were able to handle the transition from Bob to Lincoln so well was your relationship with Lincoln. What's your relationship like with Freddie?
It's very laid back. You know, I haven't had to work directly with him, but now I'm getting to see that side of him. So, no, it's a great relationship. He's a guy that he's very honest and he's upfront about a lot. So, I expect it to be something similar to that.
Back to the college game, is that as good as it gets for a quarterback?
I think so.
Do you have time to think during a game like that, or does it just go so fast?
No, you gotta hit the reset button after every series. You can never be happy with what's going on. Just gotta go do your job every series.
Did you watch Pat to say, or do you have to be on?
Yeah, I watched him convert a lot of third downs. Yeah.
Is it any surprise to you the kind of success he's having this year, and how much have you paid attention to?
Not a surprise at all. He's been very talented. Everybody's known that since he got to Texas Tech. You know, I hosted Pat when he was on his official visit, and we knew what type of athlete he was. He's a two-sport guy, has it in his genes. Dad was a baseball player, can throw from any angle, can make plays and extend it, and he's not easy to bring down, and I've seen that firsthand. He's a big guy with a strong arm.
When you look at Pat around him, he's got Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, this great supporting cast. Do you feel like you can accomplish the things that Patrick is achieving once you have a better supporting cast?
I believe in our guys. I don't need anything else than what we have. I believe in those guys, and I think if we get on the same page, and that's going to be great. You know, Pat's been there, and this is his second year, and they've had those same guys going on year 2 now. So that's chemistry, that's stuff like that. But we need to speed up our process so we can get to that point.
I know you have a strong arm, but to see the kind of arm that you're jealous of, or other quarterbacks are jealous of?
Absolutely. He can. There was a play in that college game. He was rolling to his left, flicked it, and they went about 65 in the air for a touchdown, back of the end zone. He does stuff that you can't even think of it actually being possible.
What do you remember about hosting him when he came on his recruiting visit? Davis Webb said that you beat him in Madden, but that's about it.
That's funny. No, Patrick's always been a easygoing guy. That's why those teammates that he's always had play for him so hard. He gets their respect, not just based on talent. That's the easy way to earn their respect, but just based on who he is as a person. And so he just has that presence about him that you want to be around. You gravitate towards that, and so it's fun to see him grow.
Were you surprised he wasn't the #1 pick last year?
You know, talent-wise, I thought he should have been. I love Miles, but no. Coming from the Texas Tech system, there's always your skeptic, about people doubting the fact that all he did was sit back there and throw the ball. I mean, he threw it 88 times in our game. So, but when it comes down to it, throwing the ball is throwing the ball, and he's really good at it.
Patrick has said this year that he really benefited from being able to sit out all last season. Do you feel like maybe you wish you could have had a little bit more time to do that, or is it fine that you have to be thrown into the fire?
I haven't thought about that because, if I was thinking about what could have been, I'm not worried about what's going on right now. I've never been one to, want to sit out. I've always wanted to play, but it is what it is. I think I can learn from experience. I think he learned from both. He started the last game in 2017, so everybody's different. He benefited from that, and I think I can learn quickly as well.
You talked about really believing in the supporting cast that you have around you and being able to play at the level that Patrick's gotten to in Kansas City. So now that you've got some starts under your belt and some time with those guys, What's it going to take? What's the next step for you to get to that level?
We just got to make the clutch plays. We got to convert on third down, and we got to make the plays in critical moments. We have to win situational football, and we have to score touchdowns instead of field goals. To be honest, that's what it is.
Baker, Freddie Kitchens supposedly called the play Detroit preseason game. Just comment on, does that help now this situation at all, and do you like the way that game went?
Yeah, that was my first start, so I enjoyed that. It was different than going through practice with Todd calling the plays, so that was the first game. But yeah, I thought it went smooth, and so that's the starting foundation for that. See where it goes from here.
All right, that's Baker Mayfield at the podium. Lots there. The overriding feeling I have every time he's at the mic is comfortable. He's just so seasoned.
You love him,
not even beyond that.
Yeah.
Even beyond like my affection for him as a player and the way he goes about his business.
Savvy.
I said like I remember in September saying it's so you can hug him, and I think that goes for the fans, the organization, everything. Like playing quarterback at Oklahoma, beyond just what is on the field, but what is required of the quarterback at Oklahoma from a media obligation standpoint is very similar to what is required of the quarterback of a starting NFL team.
Yes.
That there, in other words, there's nothing, and we've heard this in many instances where people try to get you. Sometimes reporters will try to get you to say something, and he will not take it. He will not take the bait.
They tried right there about his weapons.
They tried with the weapons. Mary Kay asked the question, when your weapons get better, and he's like, no, I like the guys we got. Like, he's not going to get fooled. Like, PR doesn't have to worry about him. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
He's
and
good.
You saw that. Some great quotes in there. I like the one where he says, we'll see what kind of men we have in this room. When asked if he can handle it, he said, bring it on. He was asked, are you as confident as ever? Absolutely ready to roll. In terms of the coaching, he said when it comes down to its players trusting the coach, there was a lot of good stuff there for 6.
Very good. Strong. He's always strong there. And now, as he said, it's about going out there and making the plays. We'll get through, some of the other comments when we come back, but a very, very good opening, statement from Baker prior to his first practice with Freddie Kitchens as his new offensive coordinator.
Zenith is as committed to athletes as they are to the game. Zenith helmets are designed with an uncompromising attention to fit, feel, style, and safety. Learn more at zenith.com. That's zenith.com. Coming up next, we meet the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit later on. Your comments from Andy Reid about why you are in good hands with John Dorsey. CBD, 850 WKNR.
The competition can't know. This month at Bill Doherty Kia and Kia Streetsboro, we're having a loan lease termination sale. Owe too much? Over on your lease miles? Don't worry. We'll pay off your loan or lease regardless of what you owe. Visit BillDohertyKia.com or KiaStreetsboro.com.
With approved credit expires 11/30/2018. See dealer for details.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
See why more than 3 million companies worldwide use Indeed to hire.
Post
your job at Indeed.com/hire. Indeed, the world's #1 job
ours.
site. Source.com score total
We don't have the
visits.
Chiefs release.
Ohio has over 920,000 diabetics. If you are a diabetic, take a step in the right
We'd like
direction
to
by having
answer
your
some
feet
questions
checked
from the people
routinely
during
by a
commercial
podiatric
breaks.
physician, the
What's he
most
doing?
qualified doctors to care for your feet. Adding a podiatrist to your healthcare team
He's
can
talking
help
with
you better
Carmen.
manage
Carmen's
the
eating a
effects
pen.
of diabetes on your feet. Ohio Foot and
pen.
Ankle Medical
I picked
Association podiatric physicians are located throughout the state. For more information or to find a member of the Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association near you, visit
Where are we on this? I know that we got
associationsadvanceohio.com.
the YouTube, we got the
Pick your combo at Circle K.
I think
Get a
it's
starter,
Periscope,
a snack,
maybe.
and a drink for $5 or less. No matter what combo you pick, you'll be getting a great meal at a great price. Head to Circle K to pick your combo today.
Shout out to our
Only
boy
at
Kip
Circle
Ruzen,
K. Take
who's
it
a big
easy.
fan of the Browns,
What's the
has
scariest thing
a
about
birthday
going
day.
to
And
the
shout out to
Opening
FG
your
and
mouth
Scott.
or opening
Scotty
your
Buckeye's
wallet?
watching us on the
Because
stream. He just
a
texted
simple
me.
Scotty
cleaning
Buckeye.
Can cost
Yeah.
$150, and things
Scotty
like root
Buckeye.
canals can cost you hundreds
Bo's
more.
not feeling good about your
If
boy.
you don't have dental insurance to
Herbs.
help, you should give
Weird
Physicians
developments in the
Mutual
last
Insurance
24
Company a
hours.
call.
Not
1-800-500-7616.
liking it.
This isn't a discount
there's a lot
plan
of
or
questions coming on the
preventive-only
YouTube right
coverage.
now.
This is
There's
real
a lot of
dental
stuff coming in.
insurance that helps pay for
We'll
checkups
answer
right
anything
away.
except
So
about
you
the
can call
Browns.
today
Anything
and get
but
your
the
teeth
Browns.
cleaned tomorrow.
Do you have
Plus,
questions
it helps
up?
cover the
Are
more
they coming up?
expensive procedures you
let's
might
so
need down the
far-
road. Fillings, crowns, bridges, even
I think
costly dentures.
mostly Browns.
There's
really.
no deductible
Periscope,
and no annual maximum.
that's when they can do, like,
Your
live,
acceptance is
real-time
guaranteed
stuff.
for one of these insurance policies,
It's
even
all-
if you're
it's all
retired
about
or on
Scott just
Medicare.
says, give me a shout out. I
Plus,
just
you
gave
can
him a
choose
shout out.
any
Scotty
dentist
Buckeye,
you
you got a
want.
shout
That's
out.
right, any dentist you
Are you
want.
behind,
Call
Scotty
and
Buckeye?
we'll rush you a free
Just now
information
probably
Grow
sheet with
up.
all the details.
Grow up, we got?
1-800.
No, I'm saying that to Scotty
500
Buckeye.
7616.
Grow up.
That's 1-800-500-7616.
It's incredible.
1-800-500-7616.
None of it is about. None of it. I think we have to do a better
What's
job
the scariest
explaining
thing
what we're
about
doing
going
here.
to the dentist?
Ask us
Opening your
anything.
mouth or opening
Almost
your
anything.
wallet?
Because the
just a
almost
simple
the things
cleaning
that we
can
will
cost
not answer about the
Top
Browns.
five candy bars,
And things
says
like root
Nicholas.
canals can cost
Okay.
you hundreds more.
Butterfinger.
If you don't have dental insurance to help,
Snickers.
you should give Physicians Mutual Insurance Company a call. 1-800-500-7616.
There's that
This
new
isn't a discount
Reese's
plan or
nut
preventive
We
outrageous.
had those in
This is
here
real
the other day.
dental
That blew my
insurance that
mind.
helps
I'm going to
pay
go
for
Brought 'em right to
dentistry
my
right
kid.
away.
Twix,
So you can call
Kit
today
Kat,
and get your
Twix.
teeth cleaned
Butterfinger,
tomorrow. Plus, it helps cover the more
Almond
expensive
Joy.
procedures
I
you
like
might
the
need down the
I
road.
like the coconut.
Fillings,
Like,
crowns,
what do you
bridges,
like
even costly
there?
dentures.
What do you-
Almost
There's
said
no
it.
deductible and no annual maximum. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, even if you're retired or on Medicare.
Coconut.
Almost said
Plus,
another
you can
DW.
choose
You
any
almost
dentist
did.
you'd
That was
like.
unbelievable.
That's right, any dentist you want.
Almost two DW.
I want to
And
play
we'll
the. I want the
rush you a
tape
free
to play. I want to
information
play
kit with
back
all
of
the
that. That might
details.
end up being a drop.
Dream car.
1-800-500-7616.
Honestly,
That's 1-800-500-7616.
that's a dream car
Big- hurry up, we got about 15
would be the Tesla Model S P100D, which is the fastest car in the world.
You're
Porsche
listening to
911
Cleveland Browns Daily
Carrera.
on
What year?
ESPN 850
Like from when younger, like 90s.
WKNR.
Yeah, strong. That's strong.
Black with tan.
Respect.
You guys are up.
CBD 850 WKNR, brought to you by Jack and Mancan. Awesome wine and can. Yes, a 12-ounce can. Mancan, 100% award-winning California wine. Available at First Energy Stadium and at local retailers. 6 with a long press conference, a lot of good stuff. There is the other stuff that is going to get the attention of some and will be taken and ran with and already have.
The Myles Garrett.
The Myles Garrett. The comment about he fell a little into the trap. Let me go into his mind and tell you what happened. He was asked. They were asking a whole line of questioning about Pat Mahomes. Now I'm going to tell you. This is how I think.
Remember that
this
show
went down.
Herman's Head? You're like one of the characters in Herman's Head right now.
So they're asking a whole line of questioning about Pat Mahomes. And Pat was available today, too, and was very complimentary of Baker. So there's a whole line of questioning about Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is the front runner for NFL MVP. Todd Gurley is chasing him, but right now it's Mahomes' trophy to win. He has been the story in the NFL. So that is the setup. He's asked a bunch of questions consecutively about Pat Mahomes. He has asked if he thinks Pat Mahomes should have been the number 1 pick in the draft. Baker, in a moment of not remembering where he is in the world, says, yeah, based on talent. But then he catches himself and he remembers, oh, Miles was the number 1 pick in that draft. And he said, but I love Miles. And then
the laughter played it off.
Right.
I'm sure that he's going to get some ribbon from
ribbon
number
for it,
95 at some point there.
But the problem is I've already seen like certain people grab that and say, Baker says he should have been the number 1 pick over Myles Garrett. That's not what he said.
That's not true. By the way, that would mean that Baker wasn't here.
That's true.
So,
right.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah.
This is what I said. You know, he talked about it was the first time he's ever lost 3 games in a row. But talk about leadership for a guy who's been here as little as Baker Mayfield has. Number 1 pick. I thought this quote was unbelievable to me. You know, he said, it's my job to focus. I'm going to focus on my job. I'm going to challenge room. And he said, we will see what kind of men we have here.
Love that line.
I love it, too. It's
Not
a
players,
strong line.
Not players.
Men.
Not players. What type of men we
That's
have.
strong from a rookie quarterback, no?
Yeah, but I think he's just grabbed every room he's ever been in that
Yep.
way. And I think he knows what his talent level is, and he knows that, look, somebody said we got a real 1 in 6.
Improve on that every week, and we have not.
That's it.
That's it.
It was great. All right, time to meet the Chiefs. They are.
I don't want to be honest with you. I'd rather not.
It's appropriate
Pass.
that it's Halloween.
Pass, because they're scary.
It's appropriate that it's Halloween that we meet them, sir. They
All
are
right,
frightening.
they come in as the number 1 scoring offense in the National Football League, 36.2 points per game. Nobody on the planet has more passing yards than the 2,526 of Pat Mahomes. Nobody on the planet has thrown for more touchdowns than the 26 thrown by Pat Mahomes. Right now, Pat Mahomes is on pace to throw for over 5,000 yards and produce 56 total touchdowns, 52 by way of the pass. You've got Kareem Hunt on this team, who's one of the league leaders in rushing, 592 yards. He's given you in 8 games over 800 yards of total offense, 850 to be exact, and 10 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill is amongst your league leaders with 705 yards receiving. He has scored 7 times, second only to Antonio Brown. Travis Kelce has 44 catches, 642 yards, which are the second most amongst any tight end in the National Football League, to go with 4 touchdowns. Their defense has not been nearly as good, although D Ford, 8 sacks in 8 games, tied with Myles Garrett, 8 sacks in 8 games. This team is a juggernaut, as I said. Number 1 points scoring offense, number 3 in yards, number 14 rush, number 4 pass. Now, against the defense, they have not been good. They're giving up 434 yards per game, 31st in the NFL, 29th pass defense in the NFL, 25th rush defense in the NFL. So they've struggled defensively, but they are outscoring absolutely everybody that they face.
One of the coolest stories,
with the exception of the Patriots. Patriots.
One of the coolest stories in the NFL this season, the overwhelming story has been Pat Mahomes. The other story that I think is the coolest is Andy Reid.
Yep.
This is a guy, folks, and you know this, you follow the football. This is a guy who comes from the Bill Walsh tree, that is under Holmgren and eventually Andy Reid, who was brought up in the West Coast, which it's all just variations of the West Coast. I mean, if you take Bill Walsh's West Coast and Mouse Davis's run and shoot,
yes,
and that's what we have. That's what offense is today. Is those two things coming together, and that's what it is.
A love child.
It is, and then Andy Reid saying, "I'm going to take this. I haven't done this. This isn't how I've coached offensive football." But I'm going to evolve my game plan to take full use of this kid's absurd skill set. I mean, it's such a simple thing. Why more don't do it? But you and I are of an age where we remember very well when you drafted a kid in the NFL and then you said, well, we got to make him a pro quarterback. No. You don't do that anymore. You say, hey, what do you do well? And that's how you have Deshaun Watson having what he's doing in Houston. You have Pat Mahomes doing what he's doing. You have Carson Wentz, what he did in Philadelphia, and you have Jared Goff doing what he does. Because why reinvent the wheel?
Help them.
You.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Help them help you.
Help them help you. And Andy Reid, for a guy who's been around a long time, I think it's just one of the coolest stories.
Has always done it. I couldn't agree anymore. And I love what he said about Pat Mahomes. He said, are you jealous of his arm? Yeah. He does stuff that is impossible for everyone else. And, yes, they take advantage of it. And I think that is the one thing, if we were looking at it and trying to say, are we giving Baker Mayfield the best opportunity? I think that we weren't. And I think that's, in addition to the discord, I think that's the real reason that they made a change at offensive coordinator. This offense was not doing Baker Mayfield any favors. Brian Baldinger broke it down extensively on his Twitter handle and was almost, I felt, disgusted by what he saw and what Todd Haley had dialed up for Baker in that game. Some injury news for the Browns. Rashard Higgins and Joe Schobert both remain out. Treader and Randall not practicing, but E.J. Gaines has returned to practice for the Browns, which is big, especially this week against this high-flying attack of the Chiefs.
Have you we're going to have Bruce Feldman on in the second hour, and we're going to get some Andy Reid comments in a second about John Dorsey, but Feldman wrote the oral history of Mahomes versus Baker in 2016 when they played.
Yep.
Have you looked at that box score?
Unreal.
So I know you know it's nuts, but for those of you out there listening at home, I'm just going to read it for you. Baker Mayfield was 27 of 36 for 545 yards and 7 touchdowns. He missed on 9 throws, had 7 touchdowns.
How many touchdowns?
7. With an S.
Wow.
So 545 yards on just 36 attempts. 545 yards on just 27 completions.
Wow.
That's
20 yards of completion.
That's pretty good.
Simple math.
That's big brain out of you.
Thank you.
Now, Pat Mahomes threw it 88 times, completing 52 for 734 and 5 touchdowns, and he ran it 12 times for 85 and 2 touchdowns. Pat Mahomes accounted for 700 and.
Oh, we're gonna go ahead and go 819.
I'm sorry, 819.
We're gonna go right over.
Were you
that
writing
border.
it down? Or you just.
I wrote down the numbers, but I mean,
yeah,
734, 819.
Yeah. 819 and 7 touchdowns. 819. One kid, one game.
fantasy bonanza.
Yeah.
That would be.
I look forward to that conversation with Feldman about that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
So we'll have that coming up at the bottom half of the next hour. Going to see the Browns at First Energy Stadium now with Park Mobile. You can easily reserve a parking spot before you head to the game. Drive right to the lot. Have a guaranteed spot waiting for you. Just make a parking reservation on the clevelandbrowns.parkmobile.io website. That's clevelandbrowns.parkmobile.io. Find your game, select your lot, reserve your spot. Discover a smarter way to park for Cleveland Browns games at First Energy Stadium. Visit clevelandbrowns.parkmobile.io. Coming up next, Andy Reid was his view on where the Browns are headed with John Dorsey. You're going to like what you hear. You'll hear it next. CBD on 850 WKNR.
Hey, it's Tony Grossi from my team.
I do have Andy Reid quick hits if you guys want it.
Thank you, sir.
And that means winter's around the corner. And winter is Quattro season. Audi Middleburg Heights has great incentives on new Audis, including up to $6,000 off. Plus, great incentives on certified pre-owned models. Couple this with service and parts specials featuring late night and weekend hours, and it's easy to see that Audi Middleburg Heights is the best in the business. Visit them today in Middleburg Heights or 24/7 at AudiMiddleburgHeights.com.
The Cavs and Molina remind you, don't miss your shot. Medicaid open enrollment ends November 30th. Choose Molina. Call 866-731-5723 to
Get your
enroll
questions.
now.
This segment brought to you by State Farm. Go
So
with
the
the one
stream,
that's
from
here
what
to help life go right.
I'm
Talk
trying
to an
to
agent today
see if we have
at
any more
800
questions.
State
Ask us
Farm,
almost
sponsored
anything.
by
We will
State
answer
Farm.
anything except stuff about the Browns. Ask us almost anything.
Yeah, it can't be about the Browns.
Ron Hampton says, wow, Gibbs sighting. He's genuinely
Hey, it's
excited.
Hammer, and right now for
Who
everybody
isn't excited
That's
about
how we
Gibbs?
feel every day, Ron.
Financing for 30
Just wait till
Every day
Friday.
we feel that
Mention
way.
the Browns,
Oh,
get a pair of
Friday?
tickets. Browns Falcons, November 11th, and like me, you'll be saying, I love my window.
Friday. We need Rebecca Black. Rebecca Black. Rebecca Black needs to be part of this Friday. We're getting down on Friday.
Hey, it's Emmett from my team at Liberty
She
Ford.
lays out
With
the-
6
she lays
locations
out the
of inventory
calendar
to
for
choose
those who
from.
are
Visit
not
libertyford.com and
familiar
check out our massive selection of
Oh,
new
man.
vehicles that
I
are
don't
on
even know if I
sale
know
now.
what it is.
And right
Friday,
now,
you
you
know
can
that's
get
on
great lease specials with zero money
Friday,
down on
getting
F-150s,
down on Friday.
Escapes,
So it was like a
or you
YouTube,
can
it went
purchase
viral.
with 0%
And she goes, like, she has at one point, so she goes,
Visit libertyford.com for details.
goes,
At Liberty, there's always
what
a
did she
sale.
Robin wants to know favorite PGA Tour player.
Ever?
I don't know.
And now,
We'll find out what he
Don't
thinks
do
of
that.
it.
I don't want to do that.
Hi, I am
that
Justin
happened the
Gallo.
last
You got-
time.
you've been stood up- you've been stood up twice.
I will not
thing
be
or
stood
two
up.
about ensuring
Favorite
a
PGA Tour
landscaping
player.
business. I trust
Of
the
all time.
pros, commercial
I know,
auto
it's
and
all-
business
it's all it is.
insurance through Progressive. Get customized
John
insurance solutions that'll hit a grand slam home run.
Daly.
We done?
John
A
Daly.
totally
Freddie
mailed-in celebrity
Boom, boom.
endorsement. Awful. Whereas commercial
There you go. This is
auto
good.
and business
This is good.
insurance
John
through
Daly.
Progressive
Best NFL
is anything
stadium.
but. Visit progressivecommercial.com to quote today. Insurance provided in
I
service by
enjoy a
Progressive
good
Casualty Insurance
dome.
Company. It's affiliated in third-party insurance.
If there's
I
football
think Houston's
and it's
nice.
getting colder,
Arizona,
that must mean
nice.
one
I'm
thing.
very excited to see
Akron
Atlanta when I
Zips
go there, but
basketball.
for me,
Catch all
the
the
best
action with the
environment
season
that I've
ticket
ever
for
been
just
in.
$75.
Big time.
Your season ticket includes
football is,
all
I
regular
hate to say
season
it,
games and a potential first-round MAC tournament.
All the NFL ones are so
Arrowhead's
so
cool.
new. I haven't been to Arrowhead or Lambeau.
All adding up to
Old
less than
Soldier was
$5 per
great.
game.
I love
Tickets
Old
alone
Soldier.
start
I
at
haven't been to
$20
New
on game
Soldier.
day, and parking itself is $10 per game.
Fantastic.
Over $500 value for just $75.
Favorite TV,
Visit
current TV
GoZebs.com,
show.
text or call 888-99 Akron.
The worldwide leader in
No,
sports
I don't even know what
is
second.
ESPN Cleveland.
We think you rock too, Robin.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns
God bless
Daily.
you.
Rockin'
on
Robin. I asked Ken to
ESPN
sing that
Yeah, we
earlier
tried
today.
WKNR.
You guys ready?
And we're back.
Yep.
You're up.
And we're back.
Watershed Distillery raised out a commitment to community and the courage of forging one's own path when owners Dave and Greg quit their jobs, swapped out their suits for jeans and T-shirts, and started distilling Watershed vodkas handmade by the home team right here in Ohio and available throughout Cleveland. Andy Reid had his a big chuckle. What'd you get? You're so excited.
Did you see our boy Brown's therapy?
Holy cow. He's on it. He is so aggressive. That's so great today. Tell the people.
He put Gibbs' head on Fat Bastard from Austin Powers with the get in my belly.
You and I said yesterday in one of the breaks, we said, I asked you, just out of the blue, I said, is Austin Powers properly appreciated? You snapped
No.
back immediately with the right answer, which is no, it is not properly appreciated and severely underrated, unfortunately. It was on last night. The Spy Who Shagged Me was on last night.
Why do you think it is not properly appreciated?
You think just Mike Myers?
I also may say,
Is he kinda
for
just
another
disappeared?
Mike Myers vehicle, So I Married an Axe Murderer.
That's very good.
It's a great movie.
It's very good. Yeah, I agree.
Great movie.
I don't
Heed. Cry yourself to sleep on your big pillow.
You do a pretty good Scottish.
Oh, thank you.
That's good. Much better than mine ever would be. Andy Reid had his availability today. Among the topics of conversation is the position that the Browns are in with John Dorsey. Here are those comments on that.
Hey, Coach, we'll get this out of the way early. Obviously, a lot of us here are wondering about your years with John Dorsey.
Do you see this Bob Wiley's granddaughter dressed up as Bob Wiley?
An explanation of why that relationship ended. But if you would care to share the best take you can on why John wound up being available for the Browns, and that's kind of where I wanted to start with that.
Sure. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job for you guys. He's already done it. I mean, you've seen what he's done, and I'm friends with John. I've been friends with John, so I'd leave it at that. I mean, things happen and they happen. So, but yeah, I have the utmost respect for him, and you just watch how he gets that thing turned around right there.
Hey, could you just sympathize? Suppose you could sympathize with Hugh Jackson. What did you think when you heard he got fired?
Yeah, listen, I'm I'm a coach, so you don't want to see anybody go through that. I've been through it, and I know the feeling. So you hate seeing that, but we all know things happen in this league. He's going to be fine. He's a heck of a football coach, and so things happen. That's where I'd leave it.
Hi, Coach. I was just wondering if you have been surprised by anything that Kareem Hunt's been able to accomplish on the field so far in his short career.
Yeah. Well, I've told people this. I watched all those Thursday night games of him. You sit here and you're doing work, and you put on old MAC conference, and they're grinding it out there. And Toledo was on there quite often. I go, man, who is that guy? That kid, what a heck of a back he is. Next thing I know, I'm coaching him, and he's doing the same things he did there that he's doing with us. So he comes to work every day with a purpose, loves to play the game, smart, tough. He's a pleasure to coach.
Hey, Coach, when you look at what Patrick's doing for you, obviously it looks like he could have been or should have been the #1 pick in the draft. How did you go about falling in love with him before the draft? And did you think he'd still be there where you guys would have a chance to even move up where you got him?
Yeah, so I've said this before. Brett Veach wore Doris and I out over this guy. I mean, he just every 5 minutes he was talking about this guy, and so we both looked at him and go, you know what, this guy's pretty good. So we ended up taking him, and you saw again on tape a good football player. And you guys are in the same situation. You got one there that it was the same deal. You put on the tape and it tells you the story. Man, these guys both are a heck of football players. The National Football League is very lucky to have both of them. So, but listen, we put on the tape with Patrick, and that spoke. That tells you the truth right there. And then we got to know him. We brought him in here, got to know him, and there was nothing not to like. So we took him.
The Browns had the 12th pick in that draft, and you guys obviously traded up from 27 to 10. Did you think the Browns were going to take him at 12, and is that what compelled you guys to make the move up to 10?
Oh, listen, I'm not even in that. I'm not doing that stuff anymore. And that's Brett and Doris were doing all that stuff. So I'm not. I didn't worry about all that. I just knew we wanted him, and we, like people do, they go up and get what they want if they can, and so we did that. I wasn't even. That's not where I'm not doing that anymore. I did that in Philadelphia. I don't do that here.
Andy, it's not your focus, obviously, to reminisce about your relationship with John, but we are curious on another topic here, and that is, what was your relationship in terms of picking the Kansas City players during John's, more or less 5 seasons there and 5 drafts there? How did you guys kind of work things out to where you got to the wanting to pick the player that you wound up picking?
Yeah, John picked him. Yeah, he picked him. So he's picking him now. That's why I'm telling you, you guys, you're in good hands.
Coach, how has Eric Bieniemy kind of adapted to his role as offensive coordinator, and do you see him as a potential head coach someday?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. He's a heck of a football coach. He's done a tremendous job up to this point for me, and I wouldn't expect anything less as we go forward. So I had him as a player also. So I've seen, you know, he was the same way as a player. You love to have him on your team, tough, smart, honest. You know, I mean, what more do you want? So can coach.
Coach, do you think that that Patrick sitting last year was very beneficial to him, or do you feel like Patrick's so good that you probably could have thrown him in there last year and you'd be getting some of these same results?
Yeah, you know, Mary, I don't know that. I know this. I know that Alex Smith was phenomenal for. I mean, you know, and this isn't like some grandeur plan. I was lucky enough to have Alex Smith here, and then we're lucky enough to, you know, we were able to get Patrick, and then those two got along good, and so there were a whole bunch of there were a lot of variables there that went into this, but for him to be able to watch Alex go about his business, I mean, whether it was diet, whether it was workout, you know, whatever it was, I think is beneficial. Does that mean
20 seconds.
Good when he as a rookie? I don't know that, but I know that was a great learning experience for him to have, and he took some things from Alex that he'll use throughout his career, and that's
Come and see it.
for listening to him and watching.
Yep.
John picked him, which is why you are in good hands.
I love it. Simple. He picked him for us. And you've got John Dorsey in his time with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm just going to go solely on the offensive side of the ball here, okay? Solely on the offensive side of the ball. And we mentioned some of it when we were talking in the kind of the Meet the Chiefs segment. But these are all people drafted by John Dorsey. Pat Mahomes leads your NFL, 2,526 yards passing. Kareem Hunt, fourth in the NFL, 592 yards rushing. Tyreek Hill, sixth in the NFL, 705 yards receiving. Travis Kelce, second among all tight ends, 642 yards receiving. All drafted by John Dorsey. So if you're saying we need some more playmakers here, that's clearly something he's been pretty good at. By the way, one of the best Halloween episodes of all time.
Of all time.
Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Ends up with his house defaced. With
I need to find that.
a follicle slur. There's
That's
a
right.
follicle slur
I will,
directed against Larry.
We'll not have it.
No.
All right. Good stuff there out of Andy Reid. Coming up next, you'll hear from Tony Grossi, ESPN Cleveland Browns analyst. He will join us on the hotline coming up next. CBD right here on 850 WKNR.
Golden and Gerard Cherry, weekdays at 3 on your home for Cleveland Browns football. ESPN 850 WKNR, Cleveland.
All right, ask us almost anything again. We've got
Let's go.
3 minutes.
Yep. Gibbs.
The people. Gibbs is eating.
Did you see the GIF? Did you see what Browns Therapy did for you? No. Would you like to? Is that something I can interest you in?
I watched this last night. It was on last night.
Then he did this other one. Look at this one. Nathan, I need more face shots of Gibbs. He's hiding from me, and he does the Homer Simpson slinking into the bushes.
Nathan, your favorite WrestleMania, Ron Hampton wants to know.
Great question, Ron. My favorite one of all time, WrestleMania 17, main evented by Stone Cold and The Rock. You had TLC 2. You had McMahon versus McMahon. You had Undertaker, Triple H.
Can't believe you remember all this card.
You had, I mean, many people say that is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. My favorite one, now I've been to all of them from 19 with the exception of 32 and 24.
24.
And I would say that my favorite WrestleMania that I've ever been to would have to have been Atlanta when The Miz won the title in the main event.
That had to be crazy for like your
Insane.
buddy
And we had just become like friends that January. And then he won the title there. Seattle was also cool. That had Hogan versus McMahon, the last match of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold and The Rock. So you had some good stuff. Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and Brock Lesnar did the shooting star press and landed on his head, and they thought he broke his neck in the middle of the ring. We saw some pretty. I've seen some pretty cool stuff.
Ron wants to know, which Buckeye do I most wish would have played for the Browns? Boy, any after 2015. I remember going on and saying just take best available Buckeye.
Wouldn't it
at
be
every pick. So probably the one that hurts me the most is Corey Coleman over Michael Thomas is the one that hurts the most. But Joseph Bosa has been hurt a lot.
You traded out of the opportunity to draft Joseph Bosa or Zeke in one draft.
Right, but I don't know that either one of the – I mean, Joey's been hurt a lot, and, like, the Coleman – it almost seemed like a direct Coleman over Thomas. Like, you could have just done everything else you did and just drafted Thomas there.
To be fair, multiple teams selected other receivers prior to Michael Thomas being selected. Turned out to be wrong.
But if true or false, the Browns are an hour and 45 minutes down the road. If anyone should have known who Michael Thomas was, it's them. That'd be one. Tecmo Bowl or Madden? Charlie wants to know. One's nostalgia, one's real. So
yeah, Madden's real.
I probably have had more fun playing Super Tecmo Bowl.
Madden.
Like Super Tecmo Bowl as a kid was, and it's funny, people always say Tecmo Bowl, but it's actually Super Tecmo Bowl. That's the one that had the 8
all
plays,
the right
and all
the
the teams and the
yes,
stats
yes,
and all that.
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
both tremendous. GT, they're both GT, guaranteed tremendous.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah.
Hush down. That's what I used.
Is ready.
I used to use that, by the way. I used to use Hush down in all my fantasy football stuff, which was taken directly from Tecmo Bowl via Scotty Buckeye. When they scored it, it'd be like Hush down, Hush down. This is good. You're doing a good job.
I'm trying to moderate.
His responsibility.
I mean, I'm supposed to be paying attention to what's coming up on the show. I've got reads.
We've got Antonio, I think, next.
We do.
You guys,
Nathan, how tall are you? Can you play wide receiver? I'll answer the last part. He's actually a quarterback by trade. Your height is 6 foot. What?
I don't have the resume that you do, other than unless you count Georgia State flag football championships, which
well,
I'm going to say
I've seen you sling it. I would think it is pretty good. What's your height? They want to know.
6'4", 210.
Prototypical.
Not fast.
Yeah, we had it. We got it.
We got it. We mentioned it earlier in the show. It was part of my Browns All
Go
Access
to Halloween movie, says Jacob.
I don't know that I have one.
I don't either. I hate horror movies. I don't watch them.
Miss Kay is a fan of Hocus Pocus, which we introduced to the children, starring Bette Midler and a very young Sarah Jessica Parker.
My wife loves Hocus.
Perhaps at the peak of her powers, I would say, upon a
recent
viewing.
She had a very high peak of powers.
Scotty Buckeye feels like he's here.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850 WKNR.
You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, Grossie's ready to go. You're up.
Sign up with Club Jack and receive $300 in free play, then unlock all the advantages of Club Jack, including partner rewards, a network of local businesses with special discounts just for Club Jack members. Do it today.
So the press release has been made official. Ryan Lindley, who, yes, was an NFL quarterback. Actually, at San Diego State, his quarterback coach was Brian Sipe, Browns legend. Then he was an NFL quarterback for the Cardinals when Freddie Kitchens was the quarterback coach. He has been named the Browns running backs coach, which I know some people are saying, what? Huh? Pro Football Reference had a nice zinger. They just responded to this. Lindley had 4 rushes for 7 yards in his career. A very matter-of-fact statement from Pro Football Reference.
But the familiarity with Freddie, and so
that's he knows him, and it's right. He knows
that's what it's all about.
Right.
All right. With that, we bring on our good buddy Tony Grossi on the Hot Seat Hotline, presented by Value City Furniture. Come check us out. You'll love what you see, Tone. Obviously, a lot going on here this week. Did the way that Monday shook out for you? For us, it was on the air when we learned of Todd, and so we knew about Hughes' fate as we started the show, but did not about Todd's. Did you foresee both of those things happening on Monday?
No way. No way did I expect them both to get fired. And it just seemed to me the way the news came out, staggered, an hour or so apart. I don't think there's anybody in that building in the morning who figured by the end of the day we're going to have Greg Williams as our interim and Freddie Kitchens as our offensive coordinator. I can't buy that. So, the missing link is what happened to make it a clean sweep. And obviously the other day, Monday, those questions weren't answered.
So what are you hinting at? What do you believe happened then?
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but this is unprecedented to have a head coach and the headstrong offensive coordinator who brought the system here fired after 8 games.
That it is.
They were trying. I thought they were trying to just get us to the bye week, and we could minimize the chaos, with a couple extra days. And apparently things went so out of hand that they didn't feel that they could wait.
So I would say, and I think that obviously the press conference after Tampa, to me, lit the match that led us down the powder keg to Monday's, I would call it, blow up. I know that, I don't know if you watched the Brian Baldinger video, Tony, but he kind of almost seemed to imply to me that things were being done not in the best interest of the Browns or Baker Mayfield from the offensive standpoint in that game. And I kind of think, you've covered this team a lot longer than I've even been here, but we've seen plenty together in the last 6 years. Part of me thinks that John Dorsey said this is not happening anymore, and Haslam said, you know what, we've had this kind of culture where there's been this infighting and backstabbing and leaks to the media before, and we're done with it. And I think that, to me, that was the message that was delivered loud and clear, regardless of how the map went exactly on Monday morning. Because I don't know if you heard when Chris Mortensen was on our show, Tony, but he said the first thing they heard at 8:30 in the morning that day was that Haley was out, and that for ESPN it was Haley was out, and then it came that Hugh was out.
That was he and Schefter. Yeah.
He and Schefter, that's kind of how their information came, which is the opposite of how it was actually released on Monday.
Well, here's the question for Haslam and Dorsey that I regret not asking, because it just didn't crystallize in my mind in time, the way those press conferences go and you're shouting out questions. But this, to me, is the key question. Why couldn't one of those two men at that podium stave this off, referee this dispute, and keep it from happening the way it went down? That's their job as the managers of this organization, to prevent a chaotic situation to blow up. It's going to only affect every single player in that locker room. Why could not Dorsey have gotten in the room and say, hey, one of you guys are going to lose your job, or both of you are going to lose your job unless you figure this out? And I don't think that happened. And that's their job as the supervisors to prevent this. There are disagreements on every team. I think we could all agree with that. In these high-pressured jobs that they are in. The Steelers go through this all the time. It's just that they win on Sundays and it's forgotten. But they handle it internally. It just doesn't seem to me like anyone tried to handle it internally.
And I would say that ultimately they did handle it internally, and that's why neither are here. I think it's an interesting question, and I was on the Dan Patrick show yesterday, and he was kind of asked, what I thought happened, and at the end of the day, I believe you had multiple egos who felt they knew better about offense, and this was a relationship that really, truly, if you were to take a step back, only could have worked with success. And once you got to the point where there was no success, I don't think it could work. And I think the actions, especially on Todd Haley's side, of not following his own chain of command, ultimately were his undoing. Whether he liked it or not, Hugh Jackson while he was the head coach, and Todd, in theory, should have followed along with that. And I think when he didn't, I think that is what led to the double whammy.
Well, still, they should have interceded before it got.
Perhaps they did. We might. Well, I don't know that we'll ever know that. Perhaps they did, because they're both gone.
Well, if he was violating the trust of the coach and his boss every step of the way, and you could trace it back to the opening scene of Hard Knocks.
Sure.
If that wasn't a red flag to the organization, there were a few instances where since then where it seemed like Todd publicly sought out to contradict what Hugh had said 2 days earlier. And so it wasn't like this all crystallized in Tampa. It's been building, and they didn't prevent it from getting, because there's no way you're going to tell me they're better off today than they were a week ago. As bad as that team was going with 3 losses in a row, the train was still on the tracks, and now I don't know what's going to happen.
I think I think what this ended up being about, as much as all of the disconnect between Todd and Hugh, it's really Baker. It's everything has to be done to put him in the best position to succeed, and it wasn't. And if the offensive coordinator and the head coach are warring at each other, and each one's in his ear, and then now he's in the middle of this thing, and that's the last thing you want for the number 1 overall pick in the draft, who your plan, if you're John Dorsey, was for him to sit this year. That was the plan. and was for him to sit. And so now he's thrust into it, and now he's got somebody talking to each of his ear. And my view of it is that John Dorsey is very clearly the power broker, and Baker Mayfield was his number one overall pick, and he was not going to have him contaminated by anything.
Right. I'm not sure, though, that this is going to be any better. This is a new obstacle to Baker. He was in the middle of that spat, and that was unhealthy. But now you're asking not only him, as Drew Stanton said to me today in the locker room, it's not only Baker. You have other rookies and young second-year players on that starting offense that are now, you're asking them to adapt to a situation they've probably never faced before. And to think that, you've swept the bad dirt out of the room, and now we can go about winning, I don't think it's that easy.
I don't think anything about this is going to be easy, and I don't think it gets easier with the Kansas City Chiefs coming to town on Sunday. I think it's probably the worst. If you look at the schedule, the worst possible matchup that you could have over the course of 16 games for it to come on the heels of everything that's happened here in Berea. Tony, I do want to ask you, I don't know if you got a chance to be out there for the beginning of practice. I know that because you're taking time with us, but did you notice anything different about what a Greg Williams practice looks like versus what we have seen previously?
No, we get kicked out of there so quickly. We don't see anything but cows, that. And they were inside the building because it was wet outside. And I thought Greg issued some loud instructions while we were walking in. And, that's one difference. You hear the head coach now, whereas Hugh was pretty quiet, I thought, during practices this year. So I'm sure he'll coach the team like he coaches his defense, and you know what that means. There'll be a lot of earplugs inserted at some point. It'll be interesting. The daily press conferences will be interesting. Everything now is going to be interesting because it's really unprecedented, like I said.
What do you want to see, or what can you see on Sunday, short of a win? Because I think that's a tall order, but listen, they play the games, and the Browns have been competitive and taken some very good teams, the Saints and the Steelers, to the wire earlier this year. They beat the Ravens. What do you hope to see that tells you maybe there is positivity that can come out of these moves at this time?
Well, you would want them to have a competitive game like they've had, 6 competitive games pretty much. You could even say that game in Pittsburgh for 3 quarters was competitive. And you would think on the offensive side or the game management side, there would be, when it comes to critical decisions, you'd be more in agreement with them. As Baker said 2 weeks ago, if there are points to be had on the board, let's take them.
Yep.
Rather than going for it all the time, as if this is some well-oiled machine. This was an offense still in its infantile stages with infants relatively running it, and you're gambling on 4th down constantly in close games. Come on. Take the points. That's the first piece of advice for Freddie Kitchens. Take the points. And the other question is, who's going to make that call? Is the defensive coach, now the interim coach, does he make those choices? And what's his philosophy on things? He seems to be a risk taker on defense.
Yeah.
Is he going to take further risks in game situations? I hope not. I think they gotta go conservative and try to stabilize the train and keep it on the tracks. So that's what I'm looking for, to see how these critical game situations, if they're in critical situations, if it's not trying to catch up from the opening kickoff. If it gets into a critical game situation, I'm looking for better decisions.
Thanks for your time, Tone. We do appreciate it.
Very good, guys. Take care.
All right, that's Tony Grossi, ESPN Cleveland Browns analyst on the Hot Seat Hotline presented by Value City Furniture. Come check us out. You'll love what you see. If you're in an automobile accident and it caused you injury, don't face the challenge alone. Call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk, proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Go Browns. Coming up next, the Kansas City Chiefs offense versus the Browns defense. We get into our breakdown. You're listening to CBD on 850 WKNR.
Don't tell me she broke down and took him.
No. she got the wrong Browns jersey. She brought the wrong one. So he's got a quarterback. He's got a sweet towel. He's got a quarterback wristband. He's got the wristbands, all of it.
How does this
and
happen?
she brings him Jabril Peppers.
How does this happen? 22 and 6. Nothing. You don't even call him by his name. You call him by his number. 6.
I don't even understand this.
2 cubed. 2 times 2 times 2 doesn't even get you to 6.
I'm just going to eviscerate her. How does this happen? How do you? My kid's going as Baker Mayfield, and my wife brings the Jabril Peppers jersey instead of the 6 jersey.
You don't even call him Baker. You only call him 6.
I only call him 6.
He's only known as 6.
What just happened?
Yeah, you heard it. You heard it.
What?
Kid's got a quarterback wristband on. A quarterback wristband.
They brought the wrong jersey?
Yeah.
To trick or treat day?
Yeah, my wife did.
At the school?
Look at sweet towel. Smart. At least he's smart. He took off the quarterback wristband. At least
Because he realized, hey, I'm a free safety. A strong safety. Gibbs is here. Gibbs is here.
Hi.
Put your hands together. It's Gibbs time. Gibbs time. Gibbs time.
I don't know what this thing is doing.
What do you think about that? Does that have any legs as a jingle?
Sure.
He's too angry. He's furious. Look at him. Smoke is coming out of his ears.
I don't know what this
How
thing
do you do that, though? Like, it's a little kid.
I'm trying to, pull it up on the screen here.
Gibbs.
I'm trying to produce everything behind the scenes and video. And where is Zimmer?
It's like that. It's
so
like
the
that.
6 jersey.
We are all dumber for having experienced this.
I don't even understand how that happens. I mean, they don't.
I have
How do you not unfurl it? It's her fault. She packed the bag.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
It's one of the most critical mistakes you can make.
This is like running into the garage door and not knowing why the garage door is damaged.
There will be an airing of the grievances, followed by
There'll be a one big thing. I'll promise you that.
Scotty Buckeye's got a question for you. Scotty Buckeye wants to know, Bo, does Haskins come back for one more year?
No.
So you're saying that it is possible
Tate Martell next year
for fans of the Buckeyes to not only lose Haskins,
but also
Herbs.
Yeah. In all seriousness, the news, what Urban did yesterday, I think you're headed towards I think it's like a 40% chance of return at best.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850 WKNR.
He wants to come into the studio.
Am I going to see Scotty Buckeye?
I don't know. He's usually not he's not a Mizfest guy. I would love him to be there.
You guys ready up?
Are we coming back?
Yeah, we're coming back.
The guy's playing sound over his phone.
Joe,
It's his
I
first
can't
rodeo.
look at
Are
it.
we on?
No.
Go ahead, man.
All right, you're up.
This is chaos. I am so, folks, I got to tell you, that I'm so distraught about the image that just came on my phone
You
from
should
my
be
wife
justified
on Halloween.
Now,
not only has Gibbs let me down, but my wife has let me
Twice,
down.
really.
I went to great lengths to make sure that my oldest, whose favorite player is 6, would have
known by the number.
Known only by the number. He wore 6 on his 6-year-old football team. Like he is, I call him 6 when we did the football. And so he's going. Uncle Gibbs dropped the ball and didn't get him the headband, which was honestly a condition of hiring.
It's a
condition of hiring.
It's a demerit.
In August. And so Uncle Gibbs dropped that ball. But worse
he also
than
didn't
that,
get Myles Garrett last week, Joe. I mean, who's keeping score?
It's coming tomorrow.
Who's keeping score?
Well, I don't know about all that. Let's not promise things we don't know for sure.
I
We'll
have
believe
been told
when he walks
he's
in.
coming
When he
tomorrow.
walks in, then we'll have him. So my wife sends me a picture from the Halloween festivities, and it's him in a Jabril jersey, which is fine. I like Jabril. He loves Jabril. Who doesn't? But I say, wait a second. He's got a quarterback wristband. He has the 2 white wristbands, like 6. He's got the sweet towel, like 6. Has a knockoff headband because Gibbs dropped the ball, but nevertheless a headband. And you bring the wrong jersey?
if his name was just Baker Mayfield in your home, I could see.
He's not.
I could see how you think, peppers, they can be involved in baking. However, his name is 6. It's a number. It's like for people who watch. It's like people who watch. Why am I blanking on one of my favorite shows? Stranger Things. Her name is 11. You wouldn't bring her a jersey that was number 22.
No, you would not.
You would bring her a jersey.
No, you would not.
That
Now,
was 11.
apparently, she tells me that he's fine with it and that I'm overreacting.
I watched a House Hunters episode last night.
You ought to marry my wife because she likes watching that stuff. You guys get along famously. You can watch all the House Hunters and E-Channel stuff.
The guy said there has to be an 8 in the address number, and all of the numbers on the house number have to equal an even number.
Okay.
I would have told the guy, go find a different realtor.
I thought you were going to say something else. To be very honest,
I thought we almost had a coconut incident.
I am a professional.
That was really cool.
I'm not Nathan Zagura who,
down the road.
Who talks about
that
Broncos and things like that.
I think that one held up. I'm not sure
that
mine
held
did.
up. No, mine held up under
Mine
scrutiny.
was really
Yours,
quick. It was very quick.
It was a soft tee.
It was a very
very
soft.
soft. It was.
Is it Friday? It's First
No,
Friday.
it's First Friday,
First
so you can have a cocktail, enjoy yourselves, and a Halloween edition, too.
By the way, I had a meeting today about this setup
Uh-huh.
and working on some things. My recommendation was I think there needs to be a bar in here with like a little bartender.
Well, now you're talking.
And like on Fridays, like
now you got a show.
We might need
now
to
you
mix
got a
it,
show.
like a man show type deal.
Yeah, that would have to be all off of anything that's regulated by the FCC, but yeah.
Yeah, good news. That's during the commercial
I'm sure
break.
the organization will be happy with that.
Gibbs
What we
thinking
do with
outside of the box.
I
Let's
like
turn
that.
this into a bar.
Speaking of bar and stuff that you'd like in a bar, Man Can, awesome wine in a can. Yesterday, 12-ounce can, Man Can,
And it's
100%
good.
award-winning California wine available at First Energy Stadium and at local retailers. This Chiefs offense is a full day. Bring a lunch pail, kids.
I don't at all want to even get into this. We went through it. It's the number one offense in the NFL. Mahomes more yards than anybody. Hunt's averaging over 100 total yards and a touchdown a game. Tyreek Hill is about 100 yards and a touchdown a game. Oh, Sammy Watkins also has 453 and 3. Travis Kelce. Oh, and if you want to have a lot of fun, this is a team that's offense is so good. Their quarterback seems to be in a clean pocket all the time. And they start not one, but 2 former Browns on the offensive line.
Oh, why'd you have to do that?
Mitchell Schwartz.
Who Joe Thomas says is the greatest right tackle in all of football.
Yes, and Cam Irving. Now, if it makes people, Browns fans, feel any better, Pro Football Focus has Mitchell Schwartz graded as the second best offensive player on the Chiefs, period. Behind only Patrick Mahomes. They do have Cam Irving graded as the worst player on the Chiefs offense. And if you were to go to the guard position in the entirety of the National Football League, Cam Irving rated 75th out of 76 tackles in the NFL, which is something I think Browns fans feel like they can understand. However, his performance and his grade do not seem to be hindering at all.
No.
The juggernaut.
They're fine.
That is the Chiefs. So they're doing just fine. This is a tough matchup. Getting E.J. Gaines back will be helpful, but this is a team that is going to force you to pick your poison. You try to take Tyreek Hill away. Watkins beats anybody one-on-one deep in the NFL. Last week, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. You try to take both of those guys away, Travis Kelce is going to kill you. You try to take those 3 away, Kareem Hunt's going to run it down your throat, and then they're going to throw it to him, and he is going to hurdle over defenders, leaping tall buildings in a single bound like he did last week for Hujdown. And they're a juggernaut. They're averaging 36 points a game.
If you had
36 points.
Do you have the Madden? Do you still play the Madden and all that business?
I play the Madden right now. I'm digging the vibe of NBA 2K19.
Well, that's a good one. I don't have time for that because I've got a lot of jobs.
There's
and
no time.
kids and stuff. But
when I think about it,
if I did, this is an interesting one for you because one of the things that I used to like to do on the Madden is I would take the team that would be the most fun to coach, and of course the most fun team to coach would either be Kansas City or the Rams. Which one, if you had to just have like the most fun ever playing Madden for a year, which one of those 2 teams would you pick to play your year with?
This is a great question, and I'm going to take the Chiefs because my style as a quarterback in Madden is I want to sling it and
around, baby.
Throw it deep. And so Mahomes' arm strength rating,
Oh.
I'm going to imagine is going to be higher than Goff's.
Yeah,
So
I would
I'm
say.
going to take Mahomes.
They would be a ball.
But if I'm talking about winning, right?
Yeah.
The Rams are going to give you both sides
they're
of the ball.
totally complete.
You're going to
Probably-
let the computer play D and
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Really, I think the Saints would be close to that situation with the Rams as well in terms of winning.
Yes.
The Chiefs aren't quite there defensively, but certainly. Yeah, the Chiefs would be pure joy on Madden to play with.
Oh, so much
pure
fun.
joy.
So much fun on the offense. By the way, we asked about changes at practice. Multiple beat writers out there have said that Greg Williams has eliminated music at practice. There will be
He's
no
done with that.
There will be no music. There
Can
will
we
be
have
no
some
dancing
jazz?
around.
No, Miles, you cannot.
We will
have
have
your jazz.
sounds of football.
Me
My
yelling.
voice.
Yep, this is where you're headed.
Yeah.
Listen, you've heard me tell you why. Truly's not a fancy place at Northeast Factory Direct. Those 3 locations, they save you money on rent by having a warehouse, and they don't spend a lot of money making it look nice. They pass all of those savings on to you, and maybe with that money that you're going to save, you could get yourself a hot tub. What?
Hot tub.
Well,
So
hot tub this
in
time.
the hot tub.
So,
Hot.
one of the great skits of all time, and could have been filmed at Northeast Factory Direct. Maybe.
I love hot tubs.
Oh,
There's
what's-
nothing
what's-
better.
No one's you've never gotten in a hot tub from Northeast Factory Direct and said, that's okay. It's always fantastic.
Oh, it's always great.
Fantastic. You got to check out their selection of hot tubs. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or NortheastFactoryDirect.com. Or you can make an appointment to visit the new hot tub outlet and swim spa showroom in Menor. You'll find 60 hot tubs that you can have right away at the largest selection of swim spas in Northeast Ohio. A swim spa, that's an exercise pool. It's a pool and a hot tub. Also good for teaching the kids. My kids love it. You can easily schedule a private appointment to come to a wet test in a hot tub or swim spa. Go to NortheastFactoryDirect.com. Click on hot tubs to get the hot tub outlet and swim spa showroom page. Bruce Feldman, who wrote the story on Baker versus Patrick Mahomes in college when they had like 7,500 yards, he will join us next. CBD 850 WKNR.
This segment brought to you by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. Sponsored by State Farm.
What's up? It's Hammer, and Northeast Factory Direct still has everything you're looking for with outdoor furniture, about half the price what you pay at retail. Maybe with all that money that you're saving, you're going to treat yourself to a hot tub, half the price as well, or make an appointment, visit the new hot tub outlet and swim and spa showroom in Menor. You're going to find 60 hot tubs you can have right away, the largest selection of swim spas in Northeast Ohio. Check out their selection. West 140th Street in Cleveland. They're Lakeland Boulevard, just off I-90 in Euclid. The showroom is in Menor, or go to NortheastFactoryDirect.com on the web. It's NortheastFactoryDirect.com.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates
Scotch
and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
See why more than 3 million companies worldwide use Indeed to hire. Post your job at Indeed.com/hire. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Source ComScore total visits.
The world never stops. It's constantly changing, evolving, moving forward. And so are we. Introducing Spectrum Mobile, built on America's largest and most reliable LTE network, combined with a nationwide network of Wi-Fi hotspots, free talk and text, and all designed to save you money. The best network, the best devices, the best value. Spectrum Mobile. Visit Spectrum.com today. Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Emmett from my team at Liberty Ford. With 6 locations of inventory to choose from, visit LibertyFord.com and check out our massive selection of new vehicles that are on sale now. And right now, you can get great lease specials with 0 money down on F-150s, Escapes, or you can purchase with 0% APR financing. Visit LibertyFord.com for details. At Liberty, there's always a sale.
Liberty, Zero, Maple Heights, Canton, Palmer Heights, Brunswick, Vermilion.
Call or text 888-99-ACRON or visit GoZips.com for tickets.
Mark's, headquartered right here in Cleveland, has savings for everyone on everything and has for over 35 years. You want to talk local? Every dollar spent locally generates twice as much income for the local economy and continues to strengthen the economic base of the community. Mark's, locally owned and operated, offering locally produced items like Michelli's, Pierre's, Orlando Baking, and much more. Let's say it together. And Mark's.
Favorite Grand Theft Auto game from Mark. I didn't
Looking for a new career now that you're home from the military? Apprenticeships are available in many skilled building trades. Seth, who transitioned from the military to the laborers, says,
I've always been a hands-on guy, and I've always been interested in construction. I really didn't know what route to go, so I hopped into the laborers, and I love it. I would recommend the building trades to returning veterans because the money is outstanding. It's easy to get.
Guys, I called Feldman 3 times.
Throughout and the decisions you
how to build your future at actohio.org/military.
A lot can happen in 6 seconds. A rodeo ride, a dramatic basketball win, and the world record holder can solve a Rubik's Cube. 6 seconds is how long it takes for an 18-wheeler traveling at a safe speed to come to a complete stop. And in those 6 seconds, that truck will travel the length of 2 football fields. So please, give them room. Never cut in front of a large truck for any reason. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is Baker Mayfield, and you're listening to the home of the Browns, ESPN 850, WKNR.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850 WK.
All right, guys. Feldman just called back, so he's ready to go.
Gibbs, what is this thing? Why not?
You guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, you're up.
CareSource Individual and Family Health Insurance. With health insurance from CareSource, you're not just covered, you're covered with kindness. CBD, 850 WKNR, brought to you by Jack. Time to go to the Hot Seat Hotline, presented by Value City Furniture. Come check us out. You'll love what you see. Bruce Feldman on the other line, college football writer for The Athletic and a college football reporter for Fox and Fox Sports 1. And he wrote the story of one of the most absurd college football games ever played that just happens to involve the 2 quarterbacks who will play this Sunday at First Energy Stadium, Baker and Pat Mahomes. Bruce, were you at the game when it was played? And before we get into any more, were you at that game?
I was
you happened to be there
for that game. It was nuts. So, normally I go out on the field 2 or 2.5 hours before kickoff to start kind of just doing my reporting. And as soon as I got out there, you could hear the bleep you Baker chants. I mean, it wasn't bleep you, but it was it was crystal clear. I mean, I wrote in that story. Normally when you hear chants, you can't really make them out. This was so clear right from the start. And then you'd see all these Trader T-shirts, and they say Trader, and they would have the outline of the state of Oklahoma. I mean, they were after Baker from the moment it started. And, for people who get to read the Athletic story that we did on it this week, so many people who are OU people, on OU coaches, OU players, but also Cliff Kingsbury and the guys on the Texas Tech staff who knew Baker really well. They were like, ooh, this is playing right into his hands. He is going to eat this stuff up and spit it back in everybody's face. And that's what he did.
Just an unbelievable game. The numbers, Bo went through them earlier. But when you were watching it, and in your article you mentioned you were the sideline reporter for Fox that night, I mean, what was it like to be on the sidelines for 1,279 yards of passing in one football game?
It was exhausting. I mean, it was literally because you're going up and back, and at one point it's 13-0, and Mahomes starts to get rolling. You're like, okay, here it goes. The only thing I would compare it to is, like, there's been a couple of Steph Curry games where it's like great three-point shooter against great three-point shooter, and it starts to turn into that, or a dunking contest back and forth, because in the case of what Baker was dealing with, he was just picking apart a defense that was not good. Now, on the Mahomes side, he had guys, 330-pound guys, who like had him by the waist, and he just sling them off, take 2 steps off platform, and gun it downfield 40 yards for 3rd and 18, 3rd and 12, whatever. I mean, he was 20 of 25 on 3rd downs, and most of those were like 3rd and 10s. I mean, it was insane. And so just to see it, I think it was more than just the crazy offensive numbers. It was also the environment, because of the animosity towards Baker and just his persona and how he eats that up. I mean, one of the guys I talked to is Jim Ross, the legendary
good old JR.
WWE announcer.
Yeah.
Old JR is a humongous OU fan.
Yes.
Right? And so I knew, I've done a bunch of OU games where he's been on the sideline, so I called him about it. He, in his perfect way, said, you know what, this was like the wrestler that everybody loved coming back to town, except now he's the heel and the villain, and everybody hates him, and he's eating it up. And that, you know what? Baker Mayfield's really rare for a college kid who could handle all that emotion and just throw it back in people's face and just escalate it.
Where does this game rank in your games that you've been to live?
You know, the best game I've ever seen was the 2006 Rose Bowl, where it's Vince Young against the USC team that was on that streak. I mean, that was a better game. Like, I mean, this was a wilder game. It lasted over 4 hours. There wasn't a ton of defense. That other game, you had a lot of great players on both sides of the ball, and Vince Young was Superman. Now, and what was unique about this one was you had 2 quarterbacks who were playing at a ridiculously high level. You also had Joe Mixon going off. And the stuff Mahomes did, like a lot of people didn't even know. Like this week, I talked to Jonathan Giles, who was like Texas Tech's best receiver that night, put up ridiculous numbers himself. And I said, did you know Pat broke his wrist in that game? He goes, I had no idea. You know, the only way I found it was because Kingsbury told me 2 weeks ago when we talked about it for this story. The stuff that you find out later I talked to Mahomes' mom 2 weeks ago, and she said, I said, what do you remember most about that game? She said, my son Jackson, who's now 18, but he was 16 at the time, she said, he threw a tortilla, it hit Baker. Baker reached down, took a bite out of it, and kind of glared back. And she said, and then Jackson got thrown out of the stadium and had to leave the game from security. You know,
Mahomes' brother.
Weird details. Yeah. So, you know, like I said, it was a fun story. We worked on it for about a month. And just in the context of this, one of the people I work with had said, well, you were the reporter for this game. You should do this. And in the course of it, he was like, oh, my God, you know what? The Browns play the Chiefs the very next day. I mean, the way the schedule lined up was just too perfect. And I think that's why, you know, this story has gotten a lot of attention.
You mentioned Joe Mixon. He had 377 yards of total offense. In that game. Tons of talent. Did you, as you were there in the moment, Bruce, did you think either one of those guys, I mean, Mahomes is right now runaway MVP of the NFL. We love what we've seen of Baker early on here. Did you think either one of those guys had the potential to be an NFL franchise game-changing type quarterback in the moment?
I didn't know what we had with Pat, to be honest, because of what he came from in that system at Tech. And you got to remember, like, leading up to that game, he was playing with a shoulder sprain. So he had some shaky games. He didn't throw a ton in practice at that point, but he rose to the occasion in that. With Baker, our crew had seen him so much, where the thing that really resonated with me was all eyes were always on Baker. There's never been a player that I've seen that had more confidence in what they did, and it exuded it to the point where everybody who was on his sideline had total belief. I mean, you know, you start seeing some of the quotes that some of the guys I talked to from OU who knew him, and, you know, you're like, I can totally buy it. And so I thought he was going to be a really good player. Did I think he would be the first pick of the draft? No, but that's more of an NFL thing just because he is 6 feet tall. Now, he's short. He's not small. You know, he's a thicker guy, but he's just rare. You know, one of his best friend is still a receiver at Texas Tech. They walked on together at Tech, and he's still there. And he was saying, I said, how much has he changed since when you guys were in ninth grade? He goes, not really at all. He goes, yeah, I mean, he's gotten a little bit taller. And he said, but this was the same guy when he was in ninth grade who was like, yeah, I'm going to rule the world someday. You know, and it's like, you know what, don't doubt him. Everybody's doubted him, and he's proven everybody wrong.
When you think of what you saw that day from those two guys, and obviously what they're doing now here in the National Football League, Pat Mahomes in, I would say, an ideal scenario with the weapons they have, the offense Andy Reid has put in. What do you think Baker Mayfield, what kind of a situation for Baker Mayfield will allow him to be the guy? Because his leadership is off the charts. I mean, he was interviewed today. Remember, this is a guy who's now started he came in against the Jets. So that means he's made 5 starts in the NFL, and asked about all the tumult here in Cleveland. His quote was, "We will see what kind of men we have here." This guy's five starts into his NFL career, speaking with that gravitas about the locker room as such a leader is incredible to me. But what do you see for Baker, and what do you think he needs to be the guy that you saw that night?
I think it's just complete command of his situation. I don't want to say it's even going to emerge, because that's just what's inside his head. And again, I go back to Zach Austin. That's his best friend, the Texas Tech receiver. And this is actually the 5th different head coach Baker has had since he left high school. And so nothing seems to faze him. He left Texas Tech. He was ticked off. He just showed up at Oklahoma. And as Ovo Okoronkwo, who's an All-American edge rusher for OU, was telling me for the story, he goes, when Baker transferred to OU, nobody on our team, I think, got it. They didn't really know. He goes, I was redshirting that year. He said, I had seen Baker play. And I was like, you guys know we're getting Baker Mayfield? And he was like, everybody pretty much shrugged their shoulders. And he goes, I knew that was a big deal because he goes, you watch him play and the swagger drips off him.
Yep.
And so, you know what? When people talk about the Browns and just all the bad energy or whatever it's been for a long time, I mean, if anybody can kind of put a jolt of it to kind of remedy that, it's Baker. Now, certainly he can't do it alone. He needs more skill guys around him and everything. I think, as you mentioned, Joe Mixon was he was one of the most talented running backs in the country, and he was out there. Dede Westbrook was a dynamic player. Mark Andrews was a matchup nightmare. And the other thing was, you had 2 great play callers on both sides with those quarterbacks. You had Cliff Kingsbury and you had Lincoln Riley. They're both cutting-edge thinkers, and I think now people get it about Lincoln. Maybe they didn't really realize that 2 years ago, but now they figured it out. So it was a kind of a perfect recipe, and we'll see how much support Baker has just talent-wise around him. But again, I mean, I wouldn't bet against him. I've seen it too many times now. I've been around it enough where it's like I know the people who've been around him, and it doesn't matter that he's 6 feet. Drew Brees isn't very tall, but he's turned out to be a great player. There's a lot of guys who just don't have the exact measurables, but they just make it work just because of who they are, and that's what he is.
Bruce, you've been around Baker a lot, which means you've also been around Lincoln Riley a lot. We have an open coaching position here. His name's been thrown out a lot. Do you think that the NFL is something that would interest him, and do you think that the way he goes about his business would work in the National Football League?
I think it probably would work. He's young and he's innovative, and I think he's very smart understanding what works against defenses, which reminds me a lot of what's going on at the Rams with McVay. And the difference is McVay spent most of his professional life in the NFL. Lincoln didn't. Lincoln was bouncing around under Mike Leach and now, really flourishing in Oklahoma. The part where I'm not sure the timing is right, now granted his quarterback is there, he has a young family. This is only really his second year there as the head coach. The other thing that I think is an undervalued point in this situation is he has the best AD in the country to work for in Joe Castiglione. I mean, he's got a really, really good situation. Not to say that he wouldn't be tempted to go, hey, I can partner up with my old quarterback again. But I think he knows if I keep winning, I'm young enough where if I want to jump into the NFL 5-10 years down the road, I can do that. And so I think he knows he's got a really good situation. Doesn't mean if he tried the NFL and it didn't work, or if it did work, he could always come back to college. But I think he's got a really good handle on that. So I'm not saying he won't, if he gets offered the job in a couple of months, that he wouldn't jump at it or really consider it. But I don't think it's a slam dunk. I feel like a lot of NFL writers think, yeah, he's really smart and all college guys want to work in the NFL. I don't think it's always like that. There are some guys who are like that, but I don't necessarily think it's a lock that he would be that tempted just because of his situation in Oklahoma right now.
Yeah, and the other thing that's changed dramatically is now in college you can make just as much money. So it's money is not something that is that the NFL can only offer. I'll get you out of here on this one. We're doing a Cleveland Browns show, but obviously a lot of Buckeye fans listening as well. Those tend to walk hand in hand. Urban Meyer's comments yesterday, to me, being around him for 15 years or so, I read it that preparing for the end of Urban at Ohio State. How did you read those comments, and what do you think of that?
I don't think he knows really what he's going to do. I really don't. I mean, I was there. We're doing the Nebraska game this weekend. I was actually there yesterday. Okay. And I think with him, this health issue has been a front burner issue for him personally. I think it's obvious he's been dealing with a lot of stress, and that stress only makes the cyst and the issues in his head that much worse. I mean, we happened to do the game against Indiana where he bumps into one of the guys on the sideline while a touchdown's about to happen. He just buckles, drops one knee, the headset's off. He talked about the headache issues then, but in this part, he's trying to explain it because I think just being at his press conference Monday and being around him a little bit, the questions were very pointed to him about it, and it's very uncomfortable just kind of like to dance around it for him. And I think you got to remember, whatever it was, 2-3 months ago at Big Ten Media Days, he got caught and put himself in kind of a no man's land with how he answered some of that Zach Smith stuff, and it blew up in his face. So one of the questions he got asked about was somebody had said, hey, Kirk Herbstreit said you looked really anguished on the sideline. Right. And it was kind of a follow-up to some of this other stuff. When he heard Kirk Herbstreit, he was like, okay, that's somebody who clearly knows me pretty well. It's not just somebody on a message board speculating it. And I think he felt like I need to get out in front of this as best I can. So where this goes at the end of the year, I don't know. I don't know if Urban Meyer sees himself on a golf course or back in the broadcast business walking away from college football. I think he's got to figure a lot of this stuff out. He knows he's got a talented team and a really good situation, but there has been some issues around him, and I think he's got to figure a lot of stuff out. And he's right now, I think he's really in the middle of it going, I got to win games, and at the same time, I know all this smoke is around me too.
Bruce, thank you. Great stuff out of you, and we always appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
All right, coming up next, one big thing on a First Friday Halloween edition of the program, CBD 850 WKNR.
Blood is boiling. Blood boiling.
Gillingham Ford really packing on the sales incentives of their remaining stock of 2018 Fusions. Check out the Fusion style, space, and they come in a wide array of options. Dollar for dollar, they rival any four-door that's out there or shipped from overseas. So if you're on the market, a midsize sedan, do yourself a favor and get to Gillingham. Check out the Fusion during October for a limited time only. All of Gillingham's Ford Fusions are at their lowest price of the year. Buy it outright or qualified buyers get financing today through Ford Motor Credit at 0% for up to 72 months and get a $1,250 manufacturer's factory rebate off the unit's MSRP. Usually you have to choose between a low rate or a manufacturer's rebate. Not at Gillingham, where you can get both. Hurry. The offer expires October 31st, 2018. Gillingham, making it easy for you to get in the new Fusion. 8383 Brook Park Road in Parma or online, BobGillinghamFord.com.
This segment brought to you by KFC. Get more meal for the family for under $20 with KFC's new 10-piece chicken feast. It's finger-looking good. This segment brought to you by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. Sponsored by State Farm.
Hey, what's up? It's Aaron Goldhammer, and for years, customers have been asking Alex to open up a location south of Cleveland, and just like always, he listened to the customers, and he delivered. Northeast Factory Direct is open in Macedonia, 9009 Freeway Drive, just off the exit off 82, and now, with a third location in Macedonia, more furniture, kitchen cabinets, mattresses, the works, they're able to pass even bigger savings on to you. Visit them at any of the 3 locations, east side, west side, and now down south or online, northeastfactorydirect.com.
This segment brought to you by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. Sponsored by State Farm.
School bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, they're among the education support professionals that help every school in Ohio run smoothly every day. This is Becky Higgins, president of the Ohio Education Association. They are the people that make sure
in the light of
and a clean environment in which to learn. So please take a moment to say thank you to those who work in your school district. This message brought to you by the Ohio Education Association.
ESPN Cleveland is the home of Notre Dame Falcons football. Visit NotreDameFalcons.com.
Watch, read, listen live on the ESPN app.
You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on ESPN 850 WKNR.
Yeah, we know
that, Ken. This is entertainment.
We're big bees.
Big bees.
You guys ready? You ready?
No.
You guys ready?
Look at the look on your face when Kenny goes.
Am I like, what? I thought that you never know what's going on. You never know what's happening.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, you're up.
Join us on Dog Pound Drive Sunday morning before the Browns and the Chiefs will have live music, food, trucks, swagger, many other family-friendly activities, including our 40-yard dash, 6-foot bobblehead photos, ops, and some of your favorite past players. And our vertical jump, Dog Pound Drive, opens 3 hours prior to kickoff. Is located on the south side of the stadium. It's free. It's fun. It's a Browns fan-friendly event. That was great with Feldman.
Really good. And the
I
article.
didn't realize that he
the
was
article's
in,
tremendous.
I didn't realize that he was the
the
sideline reporter
for Fox on that eve.
On that evening.
Yes.
When that went down. That's
Tonight
crazy.
is All Hallows
It's
Eve.
also interesting that Baker hosted Pat on his visit. Pat was in the pros a year ahead of Baker.
Yeah.
Because Baker redshirted and transferred and all that stuff. And Pat came out early. And so that there's a lot of symmetry there. And then those two teams play this weekend. Cliff Kingsbury has got a decent team that can score a lot of points. Oklahoma is more talented and smack dab in the middle of the playoff conversation.
Do you think he's a guy that ever is going to want to come call plays
Yeah,
in the NFL?
I think he does. My inclination would be Cliff Kingsbury got the Texas Tech job at a very young age. And, of course, you take that job at a very young age, and he's made a lot of money. But I don't know. I think he's probably been passed up by others that run that type of offense from a perception standpoint because you're shackled a little bit at Texas Tech. Like, you can't get the guys. Because he took the job at Texas Tech, he probably needed to get out of there in 3 years.
Right, but he grew
and go to
Mahomes.
Texas A&M. Well, yeah, he had Baker Mahomes. He was the OC for Johnny. Like, he's an offensive genius. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. But I don't know. I think he's been – like, when Tom Herman gets the Texas job from Houston and you don't, and then your name's not even really mentioned for that job, like, Texas is the better job.
I wonder why that is.
I think because people think that he wasn't in college football. You've got to be, when you're the hot name, like Tom was the hot name at the right time, and Texas and LSU were open. Like, Cliff played at Texas Tech. He was a hot coordinator at A&M, gets offered that job at, I think, like 32, 33 or something like that, then takes it, and then if you don't win enough right away and the timing doesn't set up where another big job is open. So to answer your original question, would he be interested in NFL play calling? I think he probably would be. And it would have to take a substantial pay cut. He's probably making $4 million at Texas Tech. Substantial pay cut to do it and maybe transition into the NFL. He's a genius, though, from a play calling standpoint.
It seems that way. Certainly does. Certainly does. You going to be okay
so
today?
distracted by this.
Okay?
It's just such a fail.
You going to be okay?
Well, I'm going to have to race home, find the 6 jersey. This is my one big thing. When you are the mother of a boy who is going as 6 for Halloween, it is critical that you put the 6 jersey.
There's only one responsibility.
In the bag. The rest of it, the wristbands, the quarterback wristband,
even the
sweet towel, the helmet, even the headband, all
secondary
to the critical.
So, right.
There's one job.
You can't be Baker Mayfield. You can't be 6.
The jersey
that says 6. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. I feel for you. There's no shame in being Jabril Peppers. That's a fine Halloween
costume.
costume.
But it's not what
you intended.
It's not what Dad has put all the work in arranging
will say this, though.
Wristbands and quarterback bands and all this.
Let me just give you a little lesson.
Sweet towel. Get out of sweet towel.
Let me give you a little history lesson here. Christopher Columbus wasn't looking for America, and that worked out pretty well for him.
How'd that work out?
How'd that work out for him, huh?
I think it's slightly different reward here for my son. Slightly different reward, potentially.
Yeah.
Are we done? Happy Halloween, buddy.
That's it.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
CBD, 850 WKNR.
Later, guys.
See you, brother.
You've been listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, a production of the Cleveland Browns and ESPN 850 WKNR.